Hi everyone. I'm hoping that I am audible and visible and that you can see me and hear me. My name is Abhilasha and I come to you with an editorial RC. Every week I discuss one passage from some newspaper editorial and we cover some questions based on that. So today also I'll be covering a passage. Today's topic or article is from The Economist. Of course, this is a source that is really popular with CAT. We've had over the last 4 or 5 years so many articles that have come from The Economist. So, well, here's one more from The Economist. Today, of course, I'm hoping that I'm audible and visible and that you can see me and hear me very, very clearly. I hope that you have already started sharing the session. If you haven't yet shared, please share it. Also, hit the like button so that I'm so happy I've received your likes. And also make sure that you subscribe because, of course, if you haven't subscribed to the session, then you'll not be able to participate in the chat and then it's not as much fun, right? So, therefore, please do make sure that you are sharing, liking, and subscribing. And also, please participate in the chat. Feel free to write what you want. If there's something specific you want me to cover, please talk about this. It's a lot of fun discussing these things and taking up sessions. My name is Abhilasha, and I'll be taking you through today's session. Let's get started. So there's a very sweet passage from the newspaper, and let's read it. I'm going to give you a minute to read, and then I'll discuss this with you. Okay. So I'm muting myself for a moment. All right, let's read this part of the passage and then I'll take you to the second part. 4 days after being accused of rejecting peace with Russia and ejected means thrown out from the White House, Vladimir Zelensky bent the knee before. Bent the knee means he just, fell with a mollifying letter. Mollifying means appeasing. Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table. That means they're willing to accept a peace offer or negotiate. Mollifying means appeasing. Let me write that. Okay. Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than Ukrainian. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. The Ukrainian president's genuflection means, uh, bending on the knee. Okay, brought him no respite. No respite means no relief. So there was no relief. Mr. Trump did not restart deliveries of weapons halted on March 3rd. Instead, he intensified the punishment. American battlefield intelligence stopped reaching Ukraine around 2 p.m. local time on March 5th. If Mr. Trump wants a thank you, we will be writing it on the gravestones of dead Ukrainian soldiers. Seed, one Ukrainian officer. Seed means he was very angry. Okay. Okay, is angry. Such brutal pressure in wartime is a warning that America may abandon Ukraine permanently and more broadly undo the decades-old NATO alliance. So, shocked European allies are scrambling, are rushing to help Ukraine, on their own, strengthen their defenses and present Mr. Trump with their own peace plan, one that, unlike Mr. Trump's, avoids capitulation to Russia. Capitulation means to give in. Okay. In the name of peace, the Trump administration is applying intense military and political pressure on Ukraine, the victim, but seemingly none on Russia, the aggressor. In his address to Congress on March 4th, Mr. Trump declared that Russia had sent strong signals that they're ready for peace, but offered no evidence. There is no proof. Mr. Trump just goes and says something, but there is no proof that Russia has even signaled for peace. Okay, here's the second part of the passage. Again, I'm going to mute myself for 2 minutes. You read, and then we will take a look. All right. I hope you read this part and let's understand. All this raises questions means, creates a doubt about whether America is negotiating in good faith. But Ukraine and its European allies have little choice. Little choice means they have no choice but to give Mr. Trump the benefit of the doubt. At the same time, they have to hedge against the prospect that America will stop underwriting. Underwriting means supporting European security, or worse, become a hostile power. Suspicions are all the deeper given Mr. Trump's threat to impose tariffs on European countries and in his vice president's denunciation of European democracy and support for hard right parties. So they have been denouncing European democracy. Sir Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, rejected accusations that America had become an unreliable ally. He had spoken with Mr. Trump repeatedly since meeting him at the White House on 27th February, seeking to bridge the divide with Ukraine. Achieving a decent peace depends increasingly on the response of the allies who support Ukraine's demand for security guarantees to ensure that a ceasefire does not allow Russia to rearm for another assault. Britain and France, Europe's biggest military powers, have hosted separate European summits to draw up a coherent, a logical response. Okay, but their efforts are not fully joined up. France's call for a 1 month ceasefire, for instance, appeared to catch Britain by surprise. Yet there is a dangerous tension in Europe's response. It seeks to show it is pulling its weight by strengthening Ukraine and keeping it fighting if necessary, whereas Mr. Trump wants to bend it to his will and end the war. In trying to stop the rift with America, Europe may just hasten it. It may just happen very, very quickly. Okay. All right. So that's your passage. Very interesting. What is the primary argument of the passage? What is it that the author is trying to tell you? European allies are divided over how to respond to Ukraine's war with Russia. Donald Trump's approach to Russia-Ukraine war raises concern about NATO, about America's commitment to its allies. NATO is on the verge of disbandment due to America's foreign policy decisions, or Britain and France are the only nation providing meaningful support to Ukraine. So, of course, here, if you were to look at the options, what is it that the author is really trying to tell you? So, it is not speaking about NATO clearly, right? So, therefore, one cannot be an answer. Okay. So, sorry, C cannot be an answer. So, I'm eliminating C. Is it talking about Britain and France being the only nations providing meaningful support? But that's not the main argument. Again, the author is not saying that these two, it's not talking about these two countries specifically. So therefore, D cannot be a good choice. Let's look at choice B. Donald Trump's approach to the Russia-Ukraine war raises concerns about America's commitment to its allies. There is an issue. Yes. Option number one says European allies are divided over how to respond. But what about Mr. Trump, which is a major part of the argument? So therefore not A also. So best answer will be option number B. That how Donald Trump is approaching this Russia-Ukraine war sort of raises doubts in the minds of, the other nations and the world, that how well is or how is the US committed to this whole story, or are they even committed to the story, right? So that is the problem that we are trying to face here. All right, let's look at the next question. Okay, so the answer was B, of course, like we said. What can be inferred about Trump's stance on Ukraine? Now, Trump's stance on Ukraine is very interesting. He is applying equal pressure on both Russia and Ukraine to reach a peace deal. Now, the problem is that from the passage, we cannot see equal pressure. Mr. Trump is saying that Russia has indicated, but where is the pressure? We can't see. So A, no. Look at B. His policies indicate a strategic shift in America's global alliances. So till now, they were very clearly with NATO, with Ukraine. Now suddenly he's pressurizing Ukraine to give up and go for peace and all of that. So B can be a good choice. Look at C. He wants to escalate the conflict by providing Ukraine with more military support. But he is not giving military support. So it cannot be C. I'll eliminate C. Look at D. He believes Ukraine is stronger than Russia and can win the war without US assistance. No, he does not say that Ukraine is stronger. So it's not D. So the best answer here is going to be choice number B, that his policies are indicating a strategic shift in America's global alliances. All right, let's look at question number. Okay, the correct answer was B, of course, like we said. Which of the following best describes the tone of the passage? Is the author optimistic and hopeful? Is he analytical and critical? Is he neutral and objective? Is he apologetic and defensive? Well, is he really apologetic and defensive? Not really. We can't see that apology that is happening anywhere, is it? Right? So I'm so sure that it cannot be D. Is he neutral? He is not neutral because he is giving you doubts about Mr. Trump. So no. Is he analytical and critical? He can be. I'll put a star here. Is he optimistic and hopeful? No, he's not hopeful. He has very little hope from the US. So therefore, B is our best choice answer, that he is analytical and critical. Okay. All right. Yes, the correct answer is B. Let me look at the next question. Which assumption underlies the author's argument? So what is the assumption that the author is making here? That America has historically been a reliable supporter of European security. Okay. Then Trump's policies are intentionally designed to benefit Russia. We don't know because the author does not really give you any hint like that. So therefore not B. European nations are capable of defending themselves without US assistance, but this is not underlying the author's argument. A peace deal is unlikely without America's involvement. Again, we don't know. So the best one is that America has historically been a reliable supporter of European security, and now suddenly they are, changing their tune. So that is the problem in this whole story, why the author is skeptical. So the correct answer will be A. All right, let's look at question number 5. Question number 5, what does the word genuflection most likely mean in the context of the passage? Genuflect is to bend in front of someone, to kowtow, to agree to someone's idea. So therefore, it cannot be a show of defiance. A defiance is a show of rebellion or outrage. So it cannot be. Display of frustration also would not be genuflection. So it has to be an act of submission or deference, which can be the right answer. It's not a diplomatic negotiation. In negotiation, you would not genuflect, right? So therefore not D. So best answer here will be choice number C. When you bend in front of someone, right? That's genuflect. All right. Question number 6 here you are. What is the structure of the passage? How is the passage structured? A chronological recounting of events leading to Russia-Ukraine war, but it's not a chronological recounting. So it's not A. A balanced discussion of multiple perspectives on America's foreign policy, but we are not talking of America's foreign policy, so it cannot be B. A cause and effect analysis of Trump's stance on Ukraine and its geopolitical consequences. Yes, what is Trump doing about Ukraine and what will be the consequences? That can be a good choice. A comparison between American and European approaches to diplomacy, but where is the comparison given? So not D. So here the best answer is going to be choice number C, a cause and effect analysis of Trump's stance on Ukraine and its geopolitical consequences. Okay, so I hope you got that. That's option number C. That's your correct answer. And that brings us to the end of today's session. Guys, if you have any questions you wish to ask me, please feel free to ask. Also, if you don't want to ask something now, you can drop a comment in the chat box. You're always, welcome. We will read it and respond appropriately. Thank you so much for joining in. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe as soon as you see it. Thank you. Bye-bye. Adios, my amigos. Hasta la vista.